When Emily and I became engaged, I genuinely felt like my life had finally clicked into place. She was smart, stunning, and the type of person who could light up any space simply by stepping into it. We'd been a couple for nearly 4 years, and I placed more trust in her than in anyone I'd ever known. As the wedding drew closer, a mix of thrill and anxious butterflies filled me. She was putting together her Bachelorette celebration alongside her closest friends. I teased her about not wanting the full rundown, but honestly, I felt zero concern. She assured me it would be a low-key evening of giggles and cocktails. Nothing wild, nothing that would cross any lines for me. I bought it entirely because our bond felt that solid. On the actual night of her Bachelorette, I remained at home. I grabbed some pizza, cracked open a beer, and devoted most of the time to quietly perfecting the honeymoon surprise I'd been planning in secret. I pictured a dreamy escape to Greece, the exact destination she'd always fantasized about but never thought we'd manage to reach. Every hour or so I glanced at my phone, hoping for a sweet or silly text from her, yet my screen stayed quiet. I reassured myself she was simply caught up in the enjoyment, dismissing the unusual lack of contact. Close to midnight, I headed to sleep, confident she was safe and having a blast with her group. The following morning, Emily walked through the door appearing exhausted, yet strangely upbeat. She wrapped me in a hug, claimed the night had been fantastic, and dodged any specifics. Just typical girls' night things, she said lightly with a grin, then went upstairs to shower. I didn't press her, though an odd unease lingered inside me. I couldn't pinpoint why. Perhaps it was the way she wouldn't quite meet my gaze. Perhaps it was a too relaxed way she spoke. I forced the suspicion aside, telling myself not to read too much into it. Trust formed the bedrock of what we had. That same afternoon, I dropped into a downtown cafe. While standing there waiting for my drink, a voice I recognized caught my ear. It belonged to Sarah, Emily's maid of honor, chatting at a nearby table with another friend. They hadn't spotted me, and I wasn't eavesdropping on purpose. But the moment Emily's name came up, I couldn't tune out. Sarah gave a shaky laugh and remarked, "I still can't wrap my head around the fact that she really went through with it last night. So close to the wedding." My pulse lurched. The other friend murmured, "If her fiancé ever learns about it, he'd cancel everything instantly." I stood frozen, my coffee growing icy in my grip. Part of me wanted to leave right then, but my feet wouldn't cooperate. Sarah went on, dropping her volume so low I had to inch nearer. She mentioned how they'd all promised to keep it locked away forever. Hooking up with Mark was completely insane, she said. Of everyone possible, her best friend's own husband. She tried to downplay it as innocent excitement, then added worriedly, "What happens if anybody spills?" Everything inside me shifted. My lungs constricted. Breathing became impossible for a second. I desperately wished I had misheard, but each sentence hit with brutal clarity. Emily, the woman I was supposed to marry in just days, had been unfaithful on the exact evening dedicated to honoring our upcoming life together. I staggered out of the cafe before they could see me. My mind raced wildly. The pain stung even more sharply because it wasn't solely about the physical act. It was the hidden deceit, the dishonesty, the way she returned home and pressed her lips to mine like the night had been ordinary. By the time I got back to the house, shock had hardened into fury. I craved explanations, yet I also required solid evidence. That evening, after she fell asleep, I unlocked her phone. The evidence sat right there, a string of messages exchanged with Mark, playful flirting, booze-fueled admissions. Even one grainy picture that shattered whatever lingering doubt remained. The next morning I faced her directly. Initially she rejected it all, her tone climbing into fake indignation. But once I held the messages in front of her, every bit of color vanished from her skin. She fumbled through excuses, tears streaming, insisting it had been a terrible error she deeply regretted. She pleaded with me not to destroy our entire future because of one foolish, drunken moment. The harder she begged, the more hollow her promises rang. What shattered me beyond the infidelity itself was realizing she had been ready to walk down the aisle and build a life with me while carrying that secret indefinitely, never intending to confess. I informed her the wedding was canceled. She broke down completely. grabbing at my hands, vowing it would never occur again. She insisted she truly loved me and pointed fingers at the liquor and the overwhelming stress. But I no longer viewed her the same. Once shattered, trust doesn't simply repair itself like nothing happened. I left the room while she remained on the floor, crying. For days afterward, my phone lit up constantly. Her apologies, her professions of love, her desperate pleas for another chance. But I left every one unanswered. When I informed our families the wedding was off, so near the date, they were shocked. I refused to share the real reason, only stating it was the right decision. Emily's circle already understood the full story, and their complete quietness said everything. Eventually, word reached Mark's wife, too, and their marriage collapsed in the fallout. The whole situation turned messy and painful, yet oddly it brought me a sense of resolution. Emily's disloyalty didn't merely wound me personally. It exposed her real character in a moment she assumed would remain completely hidden. In hindsight, catching that cafe conversation felt like a brutal but merciful gift. It prevented me from stepping into decades filled with deception, control, and repeated betrayal. The agony of losing the person I believed I loved cut deeply, yet realizing the truth after years of marriage would have wounded me far worse. Emily was convinced her secret would stay forever concealed. Destiny had other plans. And now, as I continue moving ahead, tougher and more perceptive, I hold this certainty close. I would much rather travel solo surrounded by truth than remain tied forever to someone capable of betraying me in secret.